The Hustle Factory podcast show is now being... Alright guys, hello, my name is John Dimas and I'm the host of the Hustle Factory podcast. How is everyone doing today, guys? I hope that you guys are having an amazing month so far, because the end of this month is like literally either today or tomorrow. Wait, time of my recording right now? Holy shit, it's like 3 minutes before midnight, but you get what I'm saying. How are you guys doing today? What you guys got going on? Are you guys still following what you're very passionate about? Are you guys just still hustling out there and just essentially following the process of life, but without getting you guys any bored as hell about it? I'm going to try to get onto this episode as soon as possible. It's not really going to be a long episode today. Real quick, if you're a new listener of this podcast, first of all, I welcome you to this podcast, the Hustle Factory podcast, but unfortunately, you may kind of regret to know that what I am about to say for the next few minutes may change your mind about it, but that shouldn't let you change your mind about it. Anyways, on this podcast, I mainly cover motivational rants about life, and with it, I actually use my entrepreneurial thoughts about it and so on. From time to time, cover interview episodes with variety of content creators out there, and so yeah, that's what this podcast is all about. And again, for any of the previous listeners out there and so on, I apologize again that there really isn't a new episode for this month and from the previous month ago. It's just that a lot lately, I've been kind of on and off with the content lately. It's just that I've been incredibly busy as hell a lot lately with my new 9-to-5 job that I've recently started a month ago. And I gotta say, guys, I'm really loving it so far. And it's actually way a lot better than my previous job about it. And as always, if you haven't listened or watched the previous episode, which is all about whether success is luck or hard work, I highly recommend that you guys listen or watch that episode. Give it a shot. And like I said, it's all available on the platforms, and I'm sure that you will love on the value that I have provided on that episode. In today's quick podcast update, I want to cover the following things. The first thing is the main changes that's coming out on this podcast. Secondly, the types of content that I'll be producing again on this podcast. And lastly, some few miscellaneous updates. So without wasting anyone's time, let's get on to that. So the first main thing that I want to talk about is what are the main changes that's coming out on this podcast. So to keep it short, the whole gist of this changes is going to be essentially a whole new rebranding of this podcast. Meaning there's going to be a whole new name and a logo as well, obviously. And I got to say, I gave it such a huge consideration about this decision for almost 7+ months now. And, it's just that I have to think about it really, really, really hard. I got to take my time about it, thinking about its upsides and downs about it, thinking about if I'm going to change the name of this podcast to a whole new name, rebranding it. Is it going to harm me? Is it going to be a positive change? So what I'm trying to say is the Hustle Factory podcast show is no longer going to be its name. It will be, from now on, be called Definitely Hustling Podcast. It's something that I've been working on for so many months ago, and it seems like this one actually fits the best on this podcast, and especially on the type of niche that I'm producing on this podcast. And if you've seen the quick intro logo earlier, that's actually going to be your first sneak peek on the new name of this podcast, the logo itself as well. And I will go ahead and put out some more sneak peek on what's going on the new rebranding of this podcast. What actually made me decide to do this in the first place is just that, in all honesty, I'm kind of no longer feeling it, and I'm no longer feeling the name of this podcast, the Hustle Factory podcast show. I feel like it's just not producing enough spirit about it. I don't know if that's just me, but all in all, I just feel like it doesn't reflect on the type of content that what I'm doing, which is all about entrepreneurial, motivational rants and interviews. And also, the name itself is kind of pretty confusing to anyone out there to know what exactly this podcast is all about. In a sense, I'm just not getting enough traffic per se. Maybe I'm just overthinking about it. Plus, when I first started this podcast, I gotta be honest, I kind of rushed the whole picking the name of itself, and I didn't even really give a second thought about it. So, types of content-wise, in a sense, content-wise will be pretty much remain the same, really. Entrepreneurial, motivational rants, interview episodes. Although, I gotta somehow double down more on the content, on that type of content, and especially some review series. What do you guys think? And this is very important as well. This podcast is still going to be uncensored. That means there's going to be a lot of F-bombs out there and so much more, cussing, essentially. That's what I'm trying to say. Like I said before, this is how I originally formatted this podcast in the first place. This podcast doesn't tolerate any form of BS or bullshit that most people are always playing at it for some unknown reason. No, sir. Let me know in the comments below what other types of content within the entrepreneurial niche that I should definitely cover up in the near future. So the last thing I want to talk about is some few miscellaneous updates for this upcoming rebranding of this podcast. So from now on, I'm going to try to the best of my ability to start getting back using StreamYard again to record my new episodes, especially during my interview episodes. Although I gotta learn how to use Discord properly about it, because I know there are some other content creators out there who solely use Discord for chatting with people, doing interviews and so on. I feel like it's more convenient for them, which I'm not so sure why that is the case. But like I said, hey, I'm always down to learn other platforms as well. And with StreamYard, I was originally using it 7+ months ago, but unfortunately I have to stop using it because I was kind of unable to afford its monthly subscription plan. And if you didn't know what happened back then, well, I kind of lost my job that I had for 5+ years now, and I essentially kind of was financially struggling 7 months ago, so that's why I have to stop using it. Now, when I record this episode, guys, I actually use my built-in recorder within the video editing software that I use, which is known as Filmora 11. So Filmora 11, it really isn't a very bad video editing software to use, especially if you're not so advanced with the whole video editing. Other than that, I definitely want to start expanding this podcast on other platforms as well. I know I always say that on every episodes, but I'm for real now gonna start taking this one seriously. And other than that, guys, I just want to go and wrap up this episode by just saying that overall, that's pretty much all I have to say about this quick update episode of this podcast. I'm gonna try the best of my ability to upload this episode as soon as possible, hopefully before Monday of next week. I'm hoping somewhere this week, maybe Saturday, Sunday, the latest could be. I just want to go and let you guys know that most of these changes will start to pop up hopefully next week, Monday the earliest. And I'll try the best of my ability to make sure all of the previous episodes that has its former podcast name is gonna be either separated or sorted out within this YouTube channel, and even on the audio side of it, if that's even possible. Also, I'll make sure to keep up our social media platforms updated to its new handles and links as well. Other than that, guys, thank you very much for listening and watching this episode right now. It may not seem huge deal to any of you guys, but it really does means a lot to me when someone does listen or watch any of my episodes. 1 listener, 2 listener, who gives a shit? I'm not very picky about it because, every single content creators out there starts with 1 view. Just wanted to say one more thing that I truly appreciate for all the support that you have been giving me since day 1 of this podcast. And I'm not trying to say goodbye or whatever. And I believe that, this isn't going to be over yet for my podcast. Hell no. As a matter of fact, guys, we are just barely starting. Call it as a whole new beginning again. So this time, I'm definitely going to fucking crush it for sure. Other than that, guys, I will see you guys later. Thanks again for watching and listening to this episode. Keep up the hustle and grind alive. John Lee Demas signing out. See you guys later.